The project I'm starting here, that I'm walking through here, is obviously a calendar approval system. I've already made calendar reservation systems in the past. I did it as a teacher to reserve laptop carts by different teachers. Of course, universal applications, you could do that for meetings or appointments as well. However, I thought it would be interesting to have a system that would also allow me to approve it. So the original calendar system, you would make a reservation if that time slot was available, if there were no other events that conflicted it, you would automatically receive an email notifying you that this appointment was made. In this system, that is not the case. You receive an email telling you that it will need to be reviewed, and if approved, then you'll get an email stating that it's been approved, or an email saying, could you please reschedule, look at a different time. Benefits of this being is even though that time slot might be open, there could be another conflict. You might be out of the office, a laptop cart could be in the shop. There's a litany of reasons that appointment time might be technically open on your calendar, but not actually available. And so that's what this application is focused on, is making a system for approval of that. What I start with, of course, is a Google Sheet. This Google Sheet is created by a form, right? So the data from that form is submitted to this sheet. Once that data is submitted, that is when our application, that's when our app script, that's when our code gets to work. So what we have here, obviously all the names are mine, Kurt Kaiser, because I'm the one doing this. The email address is submitted by the user. That's my email address because I'm the one doing this. I'm just running through the form, very, very basic, email address, name, reason, so on and so forth. Now, let's dive into the actual code part. We're going to get rid of this generic stuff that they always leave us with. We won't need function my function. And having been taught well in grade school, I'm of course going to start off with the title of the assignment or the title of this project and my name and whatever. What I'm going to dive into immediately, and I've done this in prior videos and prior applications that I've done, is just taking that data out of our spreadsheet from the initial request. So that data that is submitted, we are going to be taking and using a object prototype, we're going to be making, an object with it. Oh, first off, what I am doing is shorthanding sheet app get active spreadsheet and then just assigning the variable sheet to the active sheet. Google often does this in the examples that they have within the app script beginner's guide. Last row, we're going to need that in several places through the program, so I thought it would be easier to establish that up here. And then I'm going to be doing last column as, get last column. I'm doing this on line 7 and line 8 because we do use the last row and last column multiple times throughout the program, and it just makes it easier to access, obviously. Now let's start that first function I told you about. It is going to be an object constructor, which we will be using to make prototypes of the submitted data to our form. So function submission, this is our object constructor. It does have the parameter row. I'll explain more about that later. It will make sense as we are building the application. This, which is referencing what will be the name of the new prototype that we create using this object constructor. So this dot timestamp equals sheet dot get range row column 1 get value. And as we started on that spreadsheet, you might have noticed the timestamp is in the first column, and that's all that's doing. It's using the specified argument of row and then the column 1 and then getting that value. And now the names are going to be in column 2 for this. So the person's name, date should be in column 3. It's pretty standard stuff. We're using new date to declare our new date variable, and then we're going to get that date, sheet, get range, row 4. So this is all pretty standard. The keys are pretty straightforward. Date string. I'm going to refer to this later, so I'm just creating the date string now. Yeah, and so I struggled with how to do this. Originally, I was using the toDate string um, method in JavaScript, and it wasn't formatting it how I would like. So I kind of did this, well, a bit rudimentary and a bit crude way to create the exact formatting that I preferred for the date string. And we will be using this in emails later on. All right, now I just wanted to apparently not have one long line. On to line 17. This dot time, sheet, get range, pretty standard stuff. What this is going to be used for, though, is when a new submission is made, it will be used in the confirmation process. Well, not confirmation, and the notification email. Just letting the user know, hey, we got that information, the data has been submitted, and your request is awaiting review. It will then also be used in the next email sent, which will be to the owner of the application, me, or the manager of the calendar. You get to specify that email address. And it will send a very similar email, except it will say something like new request submitted, awaiting review, and just link us to the spreadsheet so we can quickly access and approve the new submission. And I'm moving right along here. This dot email equals sheet, get range. Sure, row, column, get value. This date again. This date, set hours, get hours. Oh, I know what I'm doing. Yeah. So I'm grabbing the time from the date string because I'm going to set that time to the time requested, because the date when the date is requested, it's not attached to a time. I think it's set just at midnight at 00. So what I'm doing is the user also requested a time on the form. I'm taking that time and I'm shoving it into our date variable. My end time is something I choose. For this particular program, I just set an hour, so each appointment's automatically an hour. Of course, in your form, you can have them request an end time. You can have a different specified end time. There's a variety of different ways to do that. And I saved because I can never do that enough. Might harken back to my heavy use of Microsoft Word in college and fears of losing everything if my laptop shut down, which happened fairly often, seeing that it was a gaming laptop and had 0 battery life all the time. Wise choices. So my main function, main functions are going to go here. This function's on form submission because it's eventually going to have that trigger to be triggered by the submission of a form. And so now let's go ahead and create a prototype object, variable request equals new, and a new submission. For new submissions, it is going to be last row here because it's the most recent submission. So when the form is submitted, the data is automatically added to a spreadsheet and it is added to that last row in our spreadsheet. I'm going to log this and let's check it out. Ooh, I'm going to click save twice, 3 times maybe? Sure, just for safekeepings. Now, can we debug it? On form, yep. Perfect. Yes, review permissions. Yes, Google, I trust myself. I don't think I'm going to break my computer this time, yada, yada, yada. Allow. Perfect. And let's see if something runs here. Looks good so far. Logs. That date string, what is this? Time, end time, timestamp. The email is wrong. That's interesting. So our email right now says Saturday, December 30th. That's a problem. Let's see here. It might be, this could be an issue within the spreadsheet itself. I'm not sure if I laid out my columns differently. Oh, look, I'm going to save again. Of course I am. Why not? Because I don't think the column numbers... yes. So I like having the name as the second column. I hadn't shifted these columns around yet to my preferred format. So now I'm going to do so. and it should run correctly after this. Well, create an object with the correct keys assigned to the correct variables. So now that the name, yep, there we go. Name is now that second column. That looks much better. Well, it looks correct. It looks how it should have originally looked. Gonna save again. All right. Now we're gonna move on to our next function, which I'm gonna comment because, as I've said previously, I use comments a lot because I noticed when I come back a day later, I have no idea where I was working or what I was doing, or 10 minutes later or 19 seconds later. So they're helpful for me. They're also helpful when I'm going back through the code debugging, and infinitely helpful. I don't think I need to sell you on comments, but if I do, write comments. All right, function get conflicts. Great, another creative title for me. What this is going to be doing is, yep, variable conflicts calendar get events. Well, now that's interesting because I'm not sure what calendar I'm referencing yet, but hopefully I'll figure that one out. We have the parameter of request. Yep, and request below is going to be the prototype object for new submission. So we're going to use that as a parameter, and the reason we are going to get the events from the calendar on that requested date and then the requested end time. So remember, because the date was updated to have the correct time in it, and then we just use that end time. And if there are any other events scheduled for that specific time, obviously, that would be a conflict, and we would notify the user accordingly. So conflicts.length, if that's greater than 1, if that's less than 1, excellent. That means no conflicts. And then we're going to use this request.status and assign it to new. You'll see why that is, or what that is in a bit. That's what we're going to be using to draft our emails. And then, oh yes, so else if the conflict length is greater than, if it's greater than 0, if there's any conflict, we're going to set the value of the second to last row as reject. And then we're going to set the last column, which I'm eventually going to label and all of that. It's going to be our notification column, and we're going to set that to send conflict. Because there's no reason that type of situation would need a human review. There's a conflict. I, as the owner, don't need to review it, but we will need to notify the user and save in the sheet that conflict email has been sent, that it's taken care of. Oh, of course, I saved again. Maybe now I'll actually create that calendar, or not create, but I'll assign calendar to something so I know what I'm checking for conflicts. Maybe. Oh, I got it right. I guess I am. Excellent. I thought we were going to have to debug that one. So calendar, googleshare.com. And I already have this calendar set up. Calendar project, settings. And I'm just going to grab the calendar ID. Blah, 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 right there. Perfect. Copy. And back to our code. Whoop. Form. Whoop, got a bit lost there. Third time's the charm. So now I do need to assign that calendar object or create the calendar variable. Since this is going to be used throughout as well, I do make it universal. Calendar to output request, variable calendar. Solid name for our calendar. Pretty sure. Calendar app, get calendar by ID, and I'll copy and paste that in there. And save. Yep, reject conflict. Oh, I was showing you that I do need to create this these columns for status and then the column for notify. So the status column is where we are going to, or where the owner will approve and deny a request. And then the notify column is going to be updated accordingly, letting us know that the email was sent through our application. Data validation. I'm doing this because this application requires these exact words to be used to function. So reject any input that is not those exact words in row G, and then it's just a drop-down menu, approve or reject. Straightforward there. We're going to approve that appointment or reject that appointment. So now let's go ahead and, let's save it again. Maybe again? Nope. So I'm diving right into our next step here, which is on line 42, again for the comment, draft contents for emails, depending on the needed message. So this is going to be used for each different type of email we send. I think there will be 6. I think there's 5 in the end. I think there's 5. Draft email, our prototype will be request again, that Our parameter will be a request again, which is that prototype object we created from the object construction on form submission in the on form submission function. Request.buttonLink equals, I'm leaving that as a blank string for now. That is within our email. I do have buttons. It's a button for the user to submit a new request, or a button for us to go to that spreadsheet and approve or deny a request. So I'll get that link in a bit. And then request.button text. Yep. So that's the default for the button. And now I'm going to use a switch statement for those statuses, for the request.status that I was establishing or assigning earlier on. So our first case, case.equals new, and new is what status equals when there is not a conflict. So it is a new submission. It's a submission that will need review. I was creative and just called that status new. New.subject. So this is what I'm drafting when I'm drafting the email. The subject of the email is going to be for request plus date string. So I am using that plus the string appointment received. The reason I'm inserting the date string into the subject is because Gmail, let's say for instance, my subject was just, your request has been received. Every time the user submitted a request, if they do multiple on the same day or however they use it, each time they do that, it would stack on top if it had the same subject. It would be like a reply to the original email or the first request. So instead of having 3 replies for 3 different requests in their inbox, I want them to be separate emails. I want to make sure they see each appointment that they have made. And the way that I thought was easiest to do that is by using the date string. Granted, if they are making multiple appointments in one day, those would still stack. But it eliminated a lot of the confusion for me. So, and then I'm going to do a case new to. New to is what's going to be used for alerting the owner of it, me in this case, that I have a new submission that I should take a look at, that I should approve or reject. And that email goes to me, whereas the first email, again, goes to the user who submitted the request, notifying them that their request needs to be reviewed. So in this case, request.email equals, that is my email. You should put your email or the email of whoever is going to be approving or rejecting these events. So it's hard-coded in there, right there, request.email. Now, request.subject equals, same thing here, new request for, I'm putting the date string, and that way not everything will stack for me. Some will, again, if it's submitted with the same dates, if several are being submitted right away with the same dates. A new request needs to be reviewed. Perfect. Oscar. No, Tony. Pulitzer. That's for writing. I got there. Or songs. Or stuff. I should stick to the code. Request button link. I'll get that button link later. Request.button text equals view request. And again, I'm changing that button text because it's being sent to the owner, and I can click on that button to view a request. And then break and break. Those are our 2 cases for now. I will need a conflict case, but I'm not going to set that up. This calendar being new, I won't have any conflicts, so I'm not going to stress about it. All right, what are we doing here? I'm creating some space. All right, on line 63, I think this is going to be the create the email. Nope. Maybe. Create a calendar event using the submitted data. Oh, yeah, that's important, right? So we're making requests. So update calendar request. I'm jumping ahead a bit because this is only going to run at least in this application when an event has been approved, when a request has been approved. I'm sure part of the reason I'm jumping ahead right now is because I'm used to these events automatically being approved if there are no conflicts. But regardless, here we are, variable event equals calendar.create event, request.name, request.date. Pretty standard stuff. Again, request is being used as a parameter. That end time is what I had set automatically in the object constructor. My appointments were just an hour. I hard-coded it in there. Again, you could hard-code longer. You could also have a user request a specific time frame or end time. Oh, I do need to get that button link. I think that's what we'll be doing. Yep. So form link. I just shortened it for fun, I guess. Copy that over. And this is going to be the link for what's included for all of the user-facing emails. So everything but one's user-facing. I did just even include it in the new submission, in all of them, just in case they wanted to make a new request or a different appointment time. I just have the button present in all. I'm now grabbing the link to our spreadsheet. This link is going to be the link for the button within the new to email. And again, that new to email is to the owner. So it helps us get to that spreadsheet faster to speed up our approval process. Ooh, what did I miss here? Oh yeah, comma. I was gonna say my parentheses look good. That's better. Okay, yeah, we can get rid of that log. And get conflicts, requests. Hopefully now I'll be debugging it. I usually debug more immediately after each function. I kind of race through a few of them. They work pretty well together, so I decided to live dangerously, I guess. Get conflicts request, draft email request. We're passing that on to each. And then if request. So this is checking to make sure there weren't conflicts, right? So we only want to notify the user that their request is awaiting review if there weren't conflicts. Because if there were, their request isn't awaiting review, it didn't go through. So if the status equals new, and the only way that status equals new is if the status, if it didn't have conflicts, because otherwise the status will be equal to conflicts. Draft email requests. So now that we have reestablished request or defined request.status as new to, I am going to draft that email another time. Again, that second email is going to the owner, me, or maybe you, or whoever is going to be the person approving or rejecting requests. I'm going to throw in a logger here. Subject. Ooh, I'm certain I'm in status there. That's fine. Debug. Hopefully I'll catch my log thing. Ooh. Moving right along. That was a fast scroll. All right. Save. Excellent. That time it did save. Oh, before I'm going to run this, actually, what I'm going to be doing is I need to add the HTML parts of the email. I do this in a second. Script file. It's for organizational purposes largely. And instead of writing every word of my email, I have used this same outline for a while on a lot of my applications. I'm just going to go grab it off of my blog. I'll link to my blog, well, to all the code below and in the endnotes and in the pages. All of that stuff. The cards, yes. I'm just going to copy and paste it from my blog, techyesplease.com, and there it is. Standard stuff. It looks pretty. It's in a box. It's very simple, and it uses that header, the message, the name, so on and so forth of the request. So that should be good to go. And now, maybe I should make the send email function, hopefully. Oop, let's save. Yes, I'm going to go ahead and write the send email function. Function send email. And I named it send email. Creativity, once again. Let's go ahead and put the ending bracket, because if not, I'll forget, as demonstrated a second ago in that on form submission function. Mail app, send email, yep, to. And that's the request.email. The request.email is the email that the user submitted to the form. That's where we want to send this email to. Or it will be the owner's email in the new to part, which we assigned in the draft email function. Subject, request.subject. Message, I bet. Oh no, oh yes, the HTML body. Make email. Request. Yeah, that's the HTML body. That's in the email GS sheet that we created. All right, let's close out that. That looks good. We should go ahead and add that to our on form submission to test all of it out, hopefully. I'm debating that. The emails will be sent from the account that is that owns all of this. So my account, kurtbkaiser@gmail.com, owns it all. So the emails are coming from that account. Oh good, I fixed the logger before I tried to debug this. Draft email again. No, you need to send the email. Oh good, I'm gonna fix that. Future me is so wise compared to past me. Let's save and let's debug, hopefully. Let's hope I didn't break something. And debug. Oh, I caught a quality typo there, send. All right, let's debug. That could be promising. New. So that log, it did log our status as new, so that means it knew it was new. And in Gmail, perfect. I have the request received, undefined. That's a problem. A new request needs to be reviewed. That's for the owner. Request received. Once a request has been reviewed, you will receive an email updating you. What is undefined? Request.reason. No, that's correct. We need the reason for the request. Let's take a look at our object constructor. Oh look, I skipped column 3. 1, 2, 3, which is the reason. That's the issue then. Yep. Okay, so yeah, if you notice on line 15, sheet get range row column 1, sheet get range row column 2, and once again I'm going to show you here, I skipped column 3. So let's go ahead and add that now. Yep. On 17, this dot. I do like, though, that on 15 I did 1, 16, 2, and then on 17 I did have 4, just moving right along without writing 3. Thankfully now, 17, this dot reason equals sheet dot get range, row 3, get values. Boom. And now that all looks good. Let's try to debug it again. Possibly. I'm not going to bother debugging. That was obviously the reason. So now I am going to move on to what is going to be the approval part of this program. Let's go ahead and save on edit. And on edit is also going to be triggered. Well, it's going to be triggered by any editing done to the spreadsheet. commenting out. I'm adding another function here, convert data of status and notify columns into an array. Oh, right, those final two columns, I'm going to convert those into an array. Now, I'm converting those into an array so I don't have to keep referencing back to the spreadsheet, just in case many changes were made right at the same time, or for some reason the application never processed one. I'm going to grab all of the cells in the status column and then all of the cells in the notify column, instead of doing a for loop through each one each time. It could be a heavy load to issue. You don't want to reference our sheet that much. Google gets grumpy if you keep calling on it. So instead, we're just going to turn it into an array and process this info that way. I'm going to concatenate it because when you do this get values thing, it is a multi-dimensional, it's a two-dimensional array only with one initial dimension though, so it's kind of a waste. I think I said that right. This dot status array, and again, this is another object prototype or object constructor. We're going to make a prototype, and this prototype is what's going to be used in the onEdit function for updating the status of particular events and the notified section. That all looks good. Yep. Excellent. What I'm going to want to do now is once the owner does go into that spreadsheet, they do approve or reject a requested appointment, we need to, and we get the information, right? We create that status, or we create that object with the status array and the notified array. We need to use that info. We need to use that info to figure out what to update, what to send, and yeah. So we're gonna want to change the notified column. We're gonna update if we have sent the approval or the rejection, so the user knows that the application did execute correctly. We also obviously need to send those emails and then execute and call on the calendar still, on updating the calendar. So status index equals status change dot notified array index of empty. So I am going through that notified array, which is the final column of our sheet, and saying, what is empty here? Because if it is empty, that means a status hasn't been sent. If that is empty, I then am looking at the status change array and saying, status index notified array. Oh, that's fine. So if there is a blank index, right? Okay, yeah. So if it returns any index, I'm assigning that, and then I am creating the row. Now my if statement. If status change dot index equals -1. What that is saying is if we check for that index and it doesn't exist, meaning there are no blank notified array columns, the program is just, what I'm going to do there is return out of the function. Else if status change status array, now this is when I check that second to last column. I'm checking if that index has anything in it. If it does, that means it has been changed and we have not sent, judging by the notified array index, we have not yet sent, or the program has not yet sent an email updating the people as necessary. So what we do, again, first we look at the notified column. Is there a blank? Yes, there is. Okay, let's go ahead and make sure, and check if the status of that column is blank. Oh, it's not blank. Great. We do need to send then. We do need to continue executing this and send a email to this person because the status recently or just changed. And that's what I'm running through here. So sheet get range row status set value sent, and then I'm setting the value of the notified column to sent and then plus the status change. So I know if we sent an approve or reject, and I can check if that it corresponds to what we selected. And then what I'm doing in that final and line 117, status change.notified array, status index. I am now making that index equal to update because again, I don't want to have to call back on the sheet every time. I want to just continue running through these arrays and see if there's any other blanks. So the one that is no longer blank, I just assign to update. Or else, if it is blank, if both the notified and the status column of that index is blank, I make the notified array, I just make that no update. So we can again continue to process through this array. Maybe there is another blank in our notified column without having to call back on the sheet. It also wouldn't work to call on the sheet because the sheet would still have a blank there. So we are using that array because we can tell it, well, yes, there is still a blank here on the sheet, but we can add that to the array to say, yeah, but ignore this because nothing has changed. There is no new status. All right. Now I'm back up on line 62. This is within my draft email function. So in the case of approve, which means I, the owner, approved the meeting or appointment or request. So request.subject equals confirmation appointment for, and again, I'm using that date string to make sure we don't have all of these emails stack on top of each other in case multiple requests were made and things of that nature. The header is going to be a simple confirmation. And this, ooh, good, I even spelled requests correctly that second time. And our message, your appointment has been scheduled. Informative. And then break. That looks good. Now in case of conflict. And this conflict one, it's going to be used on the form submission function and also on the... No, it's going to be called by the form submission function. And it's called, well, when there's a conflict. Or it's not called. The conflict case is going to exist when there's a conflict on form submission. It sends the conflict, it creates that conflict message for us. Request.subject equals conflict with plus request.datestring plus appointment. Yep, that's all standard. Our header is conflict. There was a scheduling conflict. Please reschedule. And then I'm going to link to, well, I'm not going to link. I'm going to have that button, except this time the button text is simply going to read reschedule. I don't need to change the link because it's still going to be taking them back to that form for a new request. And then break. And on that conflict, again, what happens is the owner won't get an email. They don't need one. But the status column is automatically updated in case of a conflict to reject. And then our notified column will say sent, and then it will say sent conflict. That way we know as the owner when we check back that something has been sent and it was already automatically rejected because there was a conflicting appointment. Now reject. This is when the owner says, nope, for whatever reason, we don't want to schedule this. Update on appointment request for blah, blah, blah is the subject header. Reschedule. And now onto our message. And I'm sure it will be greatly informative. Oh, look, I even tried to be nice about it. Rejection's never fun. So request.message equals, unfortunately, the requested time does not work. What am I going to say? Could we please reschedule? Could, thinking, could we reschedule? Perfect. Request.button, and this button text is also going to equal reschedule. And break. That looks good to me. I'm going to go ahead and click save. Ooh, what did I mess up? Unterminated line on line 77. What? Oh yeah, quotes are important. And save again. Okay, that looks good. We've powered through three functions. Let's go ahead and add all of this new stuff into one of our main functions, which is that on edit. And then I am going to declare, I am creating a prototype from our object constructor that I'm naming status change is going to be the name of our prototype. While true, because I do want this, it's an infinite loop. Yes, I do want it to run infinitely because it's going to run until there are no more blank indexes within our notified array. So until we have processed through that full array and made sure that nothing is blank, it's going to keep running. Well, and if something is blank, remember, we just update that array and we skip it to the next line. And so if status change.index equals -1, meaning index return -1, which means our empty, our blank cell doesn't exist, we want to return that because there's no need to keep going. That's when we get out of our infinite loop. Else, request equals, and now we're going to use request again. So at this point in our onEdit function, we are using that object constructor new submission and creating a prototype request. And notice we use status change row. We're using status change row because we don't want the most recent submission. We want the row in which the status has been changed on. That's the information we need, the appointment time, the name, and all of that, to include that information in the email. So now what am I doing? Ooh, I'm flying. I'm flying right along here. Draft email, yep. Send email, request, great. Pay attention to that if status. On line 124, if status change status equals approved, that's when we update the calendar if we actually have approved that request. Okay. I'm going to comment this. Yes, it's going to be a triggered function upon edit. No, well, yeah. Check status change if there's a change. Let's save this. On form submission, on edit, and let's test it out. Oh, yeah, let's get rid of that capital. Continue. Can we? No update. That looks fine. Oh, yeah. What am I? I don't have any logs yet. Oh. There was no statuses. I had no. Is that what's doing it? Okay, let's just stop, save, and debug. And now we do have a change. Oh, that's excellent. So I changed it to approve. It updated that. It says notified. And it's in an approval email. And if you notice, when we way back changed that, added the reason is now in our email. Okay. So that looked good. Sickest, yep, all that information's good. Let's check our calendar here. Yeah, let's get to the correct month. I thought it was, yes, it was in July. Yep, my name, perfect. And again, that preset time, an hour appointment. Yep. All right, let's test it out some more. Reject. Debug it. And that looks great too. So now we're going to check back in May 5/16 at 12. Oh, and of course it shouldn't be there because we rejected it. It's like, oh no, what did I do now? And it wasn't, so perfect. Let's go ahead and set up those triggers at this point. And that should be getting it fully up and running. So, yep, let's go ahead and on form submission, from spreadsheet on form submit. Excellent. And let's add one more. Go ahead and guess it with me. Oh, I'm already doing it. On edit, spreadsheet, on edit. Checking if there's been any changes. If that whatever was edited, we want to know, hey, did you change or update this column, the status column? Let's save all that. And let's give it a run through. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, making sure that on edit triggers are working. Ooh, having a party here. All sorts of stuff. So what did we do? We got another approve, another reject, another approve, I think is what we just did there. Ah, yep, there's our third one. Confirm, update, confirm. Yep, that looks good. Approve, reject, approve. I'm double checking. Yep, those are the correct ones. 1, 2, 3. That all looks good. Date. So confirmation, there should now be an appointment on 6/6. There won't be an appointment on 5/6. And there should be a new appointment on 5/16 at 9:30 a.m. 7/16, right? 7/16 at 9:30. I might be wondering why there isn't 5, but that's because I had deleted the original one and we only needed 3 new ones that time. So that all functioned correctly. Yep, there's our new appointment on 9/16 at 9:30 and our new appointment on June 6th. Perfect. That all looks great. Yep, I'm just demonstrating that the times were all correct here. Now let's go ahead and do a full run through. What happens when a user does submit a form? Is that going to function correctly? So your email, there we are. My name, Kurt Kaiser, sick. Creativity, I am sick is my appointment. 5/29/2008. Oh, I'm going to move it to July. July 5th, perfect. One day after the U.S.'s Independence Day. Let's submit. There's that new appointment. Now, we need to... Perfect, I'm flying here, but yes, the request has been received. Request received, that goes to the user, that goes to the owner, and both of those look good to me. And let's go ahead, what are we gonna do here? Ooh, we approve. So, that was updated. That confirmation looks good, that's what we would expect. And now we have an appointment on the 5th. Good. Finally, let's make sure the conflict function is working properly. Or the conflict response. Or the conflict thing in the code. Ooh, now I'm sickerist. It's like Icarus, but no, never mind, I'm gonna stop. And again, let's schedule it that exact time, 7:05. So the 5th, and then at 9, that's gonna be a conflict. Submit. Conflict. Yep. So notice our status column has been updated. Our status column said reject, and then our notified column said sent conflict. So if I take a peek at that as the owner, I don't think, hey, I missed an email here. Why wasn't I requested to approve or reject this? I see, oh wait, there was a conflict. I don't need to do that. I'm now just going to kind of format a bit. I'm going to move that code out of my whole main area and move it up here just to make the code a little bit more pretty. Yep, and paste it up here. Good. Perfect. Save. Beautiful. Save. Awesome. So, if you found this helpful, if you found this not helpful, if you watched part of this, if you watched none of it, well, you watched some of this, I'm right here. If you hear me right now, you should hit subscribe. That would be great. You should hit like. It makes me happy. It gives me joy. I've said before, it gives butterfly wings, it creates world peace, all of that. If you have an idea for something I should do, honestly, a comment on one of my other videos about an approval system is what ended up giving me the idea for this. I thought it would be a fun challenge. So if you would like to see something created, I'm not promising anything here, but possibly I'll continue to post these in the future. I have no idea what my next project is. I hope you did find this useful. You can steal this code, copy it off my site. The link's below. There's links maybe around my face right now. I'm not sure if YouTube is putting those up. Well, I would put those up. Steal it, use it, edit it, change it. If you could make sure to credit me within the code, because that's just the right thing to do. But please feel free to use this however you want and need.